My heart ever since I stepped into ministry was I really love student leaders. At my church, I sought out the student leaders, and those student leaders stepped up and they saw the intention and the heart behind what we wanted to do. How can we best equip these students so that they have the information and the resources to do what they need to do? We want to be able to say, we're here for you. We know that what you're about to go through is incredibly challenging. And so we're here for you.
Working with the local church to take the hope of Christ to every student in the United States. This is First Priority. Now here are your hosts, Steve Cherico and Brad Schelling.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the First Priority Podcast. I am glad that you are here today. We've got a great show in front of us. But before I jump into that, just wanted to give you a quick friendly reminder that September 30 is coming. And that is the last day to register for the fall conference. Be in Nashville, Tennessee at the Embassy Suites in Cool Springs. Some of the itineraries, some of the things are being sent out and pushed out on social media. So check out firstparty.club/events and we'll get you signed up and get you going. Love to see you in Nashville at the end of October. But as far as the rest of the show goes, we have no Steve Cherico with us. Instead, we have Michael Butler joining us from Shreveport, Louisiana. Michael, welcome to the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
I know that many of our listeners, or some of our listeners, know who you are. You've been around for a few years here with the First Priority world. But go ahead, if you would, introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your family and a little bit about your background before coming into First Priority, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I started in First Priority just a couple of years ago. Really kind of like had 5 major life changes happen in one span of like a few months. So I got married, moved cities, changed jobs, all of those big life things that happened at one time. But been married for a couple of years, worked for First Priority for a couple of years. Before that, I was a youth and children's minister over in Texas. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. We got one little kid right now, and we have one foster kid right now.
Wow. That's a lot of life change in a couple of years.
We always joke. I mean, you got to keep life interesting, right? You got to keep doing something that always changes things. Even though sometimes I think there's a lot that's happening. Maybe sometimes too much is happening, but trust the Lord and follow His guidance. That's what we say.
That's right. Because otherwise, it goes from interesting to crazy real fast.
There's been some moments of crazy for sure, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. With one newborn and a foster, and both are very similar in age, correct? So.
Yeah, they're really close. I mean, it's not as much like having twins, but it's about as close as people really want to get to having twins.
Yeah, that's crazy. And before that, even you talked about being a youth and worship pastor in Texas, but you were actually part of First Priority in Shreveport before that, right?
Yeah, so I was a campus coach in Marshall for a little while before I got this job. It's been a little while from that one happening, but yeah, for sure. So I was familiar with the concept, familiar with the way things worked before I even jumped on board.
Cool. Well, tell us a little bit about what's going on in Shreveport and the ArkLaTex movement, and what's got up to this fall.
He's up to a lot, which is fun. There's some really cool stuff. Like we just had our yearly conference, or not really conference, our yearly big fundraiser on Tuesday night just recently. And we were able to share with our donors, our partners, what's going on. We're able to share some really cool stories. We've been able to share some of the wins. Like we're now back up to 15 schools. Like we were about 15 or so pre-COVID, and we're back up to about 15 schools now, and hoping to get to 20. We have about 3 more that are in the pipeline to get started. So we're hoping to get about 20 by the end of this calendar year. And then, so that's really exciting. We've had some really cool opportunities where God has opened the doors to schools that we did not think would actually happen. Little kind of cool side story is we had one school when I first started. I had lots of people from various different backgrounds tell me, you're not going to be able to get started on this campus. It's just hard to get on this campus. Not that
Hmm.
the school was kind of limiting. There were other aspects outside of the school that would keep us from doing first priority well there. Um,
Yep.
but what happened is a couple of girls came up to me. Actually, about three girls heard about first priority at another one of our campuses, and they talked about it at their youth camp. Came up to me one day and said, "We have to get it at our school." And I said, "This is our way in. Like, we have an opportunity. The Lord has opened up a door finally for us to get in." And so we ran with it. And it's slowly starting to get on the ground and working, and students are starting to learn the process. They actually are kind of doing a subtle launch right now, and then we'll do a huge launch probably in a couple weeks. So they're excited.
Nice.
We're excited to be on that campus. Um, we've had some other opportunities to get back onto some campuses that we did not know were actually going to happen or not. So there's
Okay.
been some really cool favor of God on getting onto some campuses this year that we were not expecting.
What is that? Is that the students hearing about the excitement? Is it churches getting on board? What is obviously we give God the glory for all of it, but
Sure, yeah.
where's some of that excitement coming from?
Some of them are students coming to us and saying, "We've heard about this at our friends who are doing this at their school, and they want to do it." And then
Hmm.
we have some adults who are saying, "What can I do to help?" And so they're related to someone who is an administrative at the campus that want to help open some of the doors, remove some red tape. We've got some people who are churches who are saying we have to get this in part of our church program, and so how can we help our students do this? How can we come
Okay.
alongside this ministry? So and it really has been like multifaceted ways for people to get involved.
Nice. That's awesome. That's
Yeah, it's
a
been
lot
really
more
cool to
fun when
see.
people, yeah, when people are coming to you saying, "Hey, I want this to happen." It's always a lot more fun than when you have to go try to sell it.
Yeah. Part of me is like, God, this is really cool. You're opening a lot of doors, but I don't know how to do all of this by myself. So, Lord, help me because I
Yep.
need your strength because there's too much. There's too many people wanting to start it. And I say too many people. We want more people to start it. It's everything is kind of happening at one time, which is phenomenal,
Yeah.
but it is overwhelming at times for sure.
Well, and that leads to the other side because not everybody listening to this is having the glory moment you are with people coming saying, "Hey, help me start." It's overwhelming. What is the biggest challenge of the moment right now? What's one of the obstacles you're facing, and how are you overcoming that?
Yeah, we've got a few different obstacles. One of them, we have some we have a couple schools that are having some spiritual warfare that's happening on the campus. Um,
Hmm.
one of them is there is some pushback from the club being there on the school campus. And so it's just a very
Yep.
light pushback right now, but it's still potential for some bigger stuff. Um,
Yep.
Not that the school is, I mean, the school is and the club is running everything properly. There's nothing illegal happening. Just some people that may not really want us there. But
Yeah.
then on the flip side of it, one of our other schools is a little bit more of a rougher area. And one of the faculty sponsors texted me one day and said, please pray for us because every time a first priority club lets out, a fight breaks out somewhere on the campus. And my immediate response when I got that text message one day was, well, is it our student leaders who are causing these fights? Like, do we need to have a conversation with the club? But it really was just a coincidental thing where first priorities meeting here and somewhere on the campus down the hallway, there was a fight breaking out. So there's
Hmm.
definitely some spiritual warfare happening on some of these campuses, but I mean, we're facing some of the same situations that other clubs are doing. Like even though we are having some of this growth, we're still struggling with making sure that our needs of our current clubs are met, and making sure we have the finances to back those
Yeah.
up. And there's still all of the same things that are happening that other clubs are experiencing that
Yep.
are struggles for sure.
Yep. That's right. That's right. Well, yeah, you came in as a club coach, started out in the previous life doing that over in Marshall, walked into a staff position now for a couple of years. What's one piece of advice that you would give to a church leader or parent who's thinking about stepping into First Priority. What's your reason for, going as far with us as you did? And what gets you up in the morning excited about First Priority?
Yeah, it's funny because just kind of went through all of this stuff again at that dinner, and so it's all super fresh. And I was thinking through, what does make me want to do this or continue to push to do this. And it really is like my heart ever since I stepped into ministry was I really love student leaders. At my church, I sought out the student leaders and appreciated their passion and their drive and their willingness to do some things that maybe were a little bit outside of the box and maybe kind of considered to be crazy. But those student leaders stepped up and they saw the intention and the heart behind what we wanted to do. And so when we find those student leaders here in First Priority, we really want to make sure that the student leaders are continue to be empowered and equipped, because what they're facing right now is even more difficult than what I was facing when I was in the youth ministry. And so they're facing a lot of difficulties that we have to kind of navigate with all kinds of different ideas that are kind of surfacing. We have to make sure our student leaders are prepared. And so that pushes me to say, how can we best equip these students so that they have the information and the resources to do what they need to do,
right.
But also just the backing. We want to be able to say, we're here for you. We know that what you're about to go through is incredibly challenging. And so we're here for you. We want to support you and help you. But ultimately, it's what we're all experienced in some way. I mean, all of us have experienced some kind of situation where we're trying to share Jesus or live a life that is above reproach, live a life that's different than culture, and we're getting some pushback. And so what's the information that we can transfer onto them to say, where you're at is where I've been as well. And so here's what I've learned, and we want to help you with that as well.
Yep. I agree. That brings me back to my high school, small town Iowa, kind of growing up thinking everybody's Dutch Reformed, not just Christian, but Dutch Reformed, right? And your own thing, whatever you do is what everybody does. And then having conversations in high school, they were few and far between, but saying, man, there are students there are friends that I have that don't know Jesus, and I'd like to help them to know Jesus, but I didn't have the resources. I didn't have somebody like you, helping me do that. And those conversations were few and far between, rather than every month or every week, like the First Priority Club allows them to do. So that's super encouraging. Thanks for doing what you do. And we'll see what God does this year, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're really excited about where everything is kind of landing and going. And even as First Priority as a whole, like we're seeing some of the materials that are getting pushed out to us. And I'm already seeing how our churches and our students are being even better equipped as the year goes on. Like we're finding ways to help give them the resources, the tools that they need in their hands where they're at. Through technology or through a guide that is helping them with all of their questions that they may ask. We're seeing some of these things come through that are changing the way that these students are even feeling about standing in front of a club. And it's incredible to see. I got a text message from a parent who basically just kind of said, thank you so much for First Priority existing, because now I have a club that is partnering with us to help push the values that we are leading at home in order to get my kid into the school to be a missionary. And so we're seeing a partnership between not just churches in our ministry, but also families in our ministry.
Nice. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very awesome. Well, any parting words for our audience today? I know you're signed up and registered. You and John are both coming up to the conference in a couple weeks, so we'll get to see you there, get to rub shoulders with everybody who's registered and signed up to come. But if somebody's not coming to fall conference, you got any parting words for them that they
You're
might
missing out a whole
not
lot.
necessarily about fall conference, but what's that?
I said, if you're not coming to fall conference, you're missing out a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good time. It's a great moment to rub shoulders.
First priority people who are, I mean, I don't know exactly why y'all brought me on because I've only been a couple of years into this, but there's some people that, that we draw wisdom from. And so there's lots of people who I've heard podcasts from or just heard like Larry speak or something like that. Those people have been incredibly influential in helping me remember what we are to be doing as first priority. And so I thank all of the other people who have been kind of legacy people who have stepped in to say, I'm here for whatever you need. Call, email, reach out, however you can. JD and even Debbie, all of them have been fantastic in helping. So it's been great.
I would agree. And ironically enough, that's what we're doing with the podcast this school year is we are bringing people on and interviewing. We're going to try and be less the Steve and Brad show talking randomly and more, just talking to everybody out in the field because I think we learn from each other the most. We all have the information,
Absolutely.
right? It's all online. It's all in the Google Drive. All the information we have, it's there. But the relationships are oftentimes what we're missing the most. We feel like we're alone. In your situation too, you're one staff member. You don't have a team like Debbie does or JD or Chris or, you're out there kind of by yourself on a level, right? So
absolutely,
we want the podcast this year to be encouraging. We want to hear each other's stories and just provide that weekly push for everybody. So thanks for being part of that, Michael. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, thank you guys.